A lot of times, getting a diagnosis for OCD is not exactly straightforward. It is scary, misunderstood, and tricky. In this video, though I will be referencing sources, I will mostly be talking a lot about my own experience getting diagnosed with obsessive-compulsive disorder. I will note that I do not believe I was misdiagnosed at any point during this process, but rather that it was a journey of these other diagnoses that led to my seeking help for and getting diagnosed with OCD, as well as understanding it just a little bit better. When I first went to a doctor regarding thoughts that I now know to be OCD, I thought I was depressed and had, for YouTube reasons, let's just say frightening thoughts about acts that are harmful. But the thing was, these thoughts freaked me out. I didn't want to do anything about them, I didn't want to enact them, but I'd have these thoughts often anyways. My doctor sent me to a therapist and gave me some medication to try. I was scared to talk to the therapist, thinking I'd get locked up for thoughts I was having, put into hospital. So not much came out of that therapy, except a diagnosis of depression and generalized anxiety. But that was for separate issues that weren't OCD related. I still have generalized anxiety, and I still have depression. Anxiety bingo square achieved, yada yada. At that time, I had no obvious or visible compulsions. I am currently working with the theory that they may have been mental compulsions brought on by stress, but I have not talked about this theory with a therapist. This is just my personal working theory. So I went along with multiple medication changes to get my conditions under control, so to speak. I still fit the diagnosis for depression at the time, having a lack of energy, mild insomnia, these thoughts that I spoke of, and a low mood as well as anhedonia. But meds seemed to either do nothing or make things worse. Eventually, we found something that worked for a time. My stress got better, and so did my symptoms, until the cycle repeated again. Life got stressful, but this time I tried to cope using methods my previous therapist gave me. I buried myself in tasks, and depression didn't take hold, instead giving way to a burst of energy that I don't know exactly how to label. It lasted for a few days, making both myself and my medical team wonder if it was some sign of bipolar. I was scarily content and happy about these previously frightening, harmful thoughts, in a way that felt wrong. I still wonder if it was something akin to mania brought on by stress, but I'm unsure and again won't definitively label it. I still didn't want to enact any of these things, but okay, I hate using Harry Potter because J.K. Rowling is a TERF, but I think that this quote sums it up rather well.
You're gonna suffer, but you're gonna be happy about it.
This sent me to another psych. This one said it was not bipolar, but did a pretty good job at marking off another square on anxiety bingo, stating I also had social anxiety, as well as those other diagnoses of generalized anxiety and depression. So these were the diagnoses I ran with, so to speak. I went to therapy for these anxiety disorders for months before stress hit again, and I started a physical compulsion that I hadn't done or even thought about for years. That was what got me diagnosed with OCD. Now, this was a really long way of, one, telling you my story in probably more detail than needed, but also, two, saying diagnosis is a lot of trust in one's medical team, along with that medical team having the ability to know what's going on. During that first depression diagnosis, I described to my family doctor my dark obsessive thoughts. This may very well have been thoughts seen in OCD, but with my other symptoms and my lack of obvious compulsions, it was diagnosed as depression. I didn't know, or really realize, that I was doing things to negate those obsessive thoughts. I didn't realize that these thoughts were potentially compulsions, mental compulsions. It was just, you have a negative thought, you push it away. That's what everybody says that you should do, and so I did. But because of those other symptoms, it was diagnosed as depression, and I still think that it was depression. I just think it was depression with OCD. Now, I had other obsessions throughout the years. I've been thinking about that a lot, honestly. And I was really scared to bring them up because I was scared they'd be misconstrued and that they'd be things, again, that would land me locked up in a mental hospital or whatever, because that's always the fear with mental health, because that's the thing that the media runs with. That's the thing that you get told, is if your mental health is bad enough, you're just gonna get locked up, even though that isn't necessarily how it'll work. Your mental health team should work with you, through this with you, and try to find solutions other than that. And that's what my mental health team did when I eventually brought thoughts up. But I hadn't for years and years because I was so scared they'd be misconstrued. And this is common with OCD because the obsessions are ego-dystonic, the opposite of what we believe, the opposite of what we hold close to us. And so we don't tell people because we think that these ego-dystonic things are going to sound like things that we do believe, even though they are the most frightening, scary, frustrating things for our brains to be creating. Because OCD attacks what you hold dear. And along with being scared to bring these up, it's also possible to get misdiagnosed because mental health is so dependent on a patient's description and experiences. It's not always recognized. But as with me, it's also possible to have comorbidities. Mental health is complex. You can have depression and generalized anxiety and OCD and social anxiety. You could have panic disorder and OCD. You could have ADHD and OCD. You could have all of these different mental health disorders, these mental health conditions, because mental health is complex. It's hard to figure out because it's based in your head. It's hard to trust people when your thoughts are of taboo things. But mental health is a journey, and your medical team is here to help as best they can. So try to form a team you can trust, one that can help you wherever your health journey may lead. There may be bumps along the way, and disorders like OCD are hard to deal with. But hopefully, through sharing whatever you're going through, steps can be taken to get you on the right path towards recovery. It took me a long time to divulge anything about what was going on in my brain in order to get this diagnosis. And that's okay. It's hard, but it helped me. And I hope that talking to somebody can help you too if you're going through something like this. Because having people to help you with your mental health can really be a necessity. It can be what you need to help get you functioning and on a good track in life. If you have any other topics about LGBTQIA+ or mental health issues you'd like to see covered, please let me know down in the comments below. As always, resources are in the description. Thanks for watching the OCD Enby. Stay safe out there.